Hi, I am Harini, working as Assistant Professor in Samrojini Naidu Vanita Pharmacy Mahavidyalaya in the Department of Pharmacology. Today I am going to deal with the topic sympathetic neurotransmission. The main learning outcomes for this session are: we will be able to review the basic actions of the sympathetic nervous system, list out various neurotransmitters involved in the neurotransmission, and describe synthesis, storage and degradation of noradrenaline, the main neurotransmitter involved in sympathetic neurotransmission. And what is sympathetic nervous system? Sympathetic nervous system is a part of autonomic nervous system which is mainly again a part of peripheral nervous system. Peripheral nervous system is which carries signals from the central nervous system, and autonomic nervous system is mostly considered with the involuntary actions. And autonomic nervous system is also motor pathway, that is, it carries signals from the central nervous system, that is brain and spinal cord, towards the peripheral organs. So as it has to carry the information from the spinal cord, the origin of the sympathetic nervous system is in the thoracolumbar region, the thoracic and the lumbar part of the spinal cord. And it has two paravertebral chains, that is parallel paravertebral chains present on either side of the spinal cord. The main thing we have to remember with the sympathetic nervous system is the neurotransmission produces fight or flight responses mainly by sympathetic nervous system, right? So whenever your body is in a fight mode or in a flight mode, whatever physiological actions taking place in our body are mainly due to the sympathetic nervous system. That blindly tells us the sympathetic nervous system actions. And we have another part of autonomic nervous system, that is parasympathetic system. Parasympathetic system which has mainly the opposite actions of sympathetic nervous system. And going to the anatomy of the sympathetic system. So as I have already said, they are originating from the thoracolumbar region. And autonomic nervous system, it is a two-way pathway. It has a preganglion and a postganglion, right? That is before the synapse and after the synapse. And preganglions are shorter in sympathetic nervous system, whereas the postganglions are longer in the sympathetic nervous system. As the diagram itself indicates, the length of the red lines are smaller than or shorter than that of the blue lines, which are postganglions. And this is again the major difference between the parasympathetic system and sympathetic system. But all the preganglionic neurons are cholinergic in nature, that is, they end up by transmitting through acetylcholine, whereas the adrenergic neurons, that is the postganglionic neurons of the sympathetic system, are adrenergic, that is blue lines indicates they are transmitting through the noradrenaline. And these are the various vital organs, which the sympathetic nervous system carry the information. Now, as we have seen the anatomy and physiology of the sympathetic system, now I'll just want you to have a reflection spot. I want you to list out various involuntary actions occurring in our body, as sympathetic nervous system is mainly considered of involuntary actions. So if you can list out various involuntary actions, that would help us in going through the next slides. Just pause this video and go on write on your paper. I hope you have the list of your involuntary actions. Now let us explain what are these involuntary actions which are mainly done by the sympathetic neurotransmission, right? So now coming to the upper part of the body, what happens to your eyes when you are in a fight or a flight or a running mode? They get wide open. So why is there a wide opening in your eye? Because of the pupil dilation. So the action of sympathetic nervous system on eye is pupil dilation. Clear? Right? You get wide open. Now coming to the blood vessels. What happened to the blood vessels when you are in a fight mode? Or you can say, what happens to your blood? Blood gets pumped up. They get raised, right? So why is that blood getting raised? Mainly due to the constriction of the vessels. So the smooth muscles get constricted in the sympathetic nervous system. Or you can say sympathetic neurotransmission causes vasoconstriction. And what happens to your salivary glands when you are in a fight mode? They get dried up, right? Your tongue feels dryness. So there is inhibition of the salivary secretion in the sympathetic neurotransmission. Not only the salivary secretion, but all the secretions, that is endocrine secretions, are also inhibited. Now, coming to the vital organs, what happened to your heart? Your heart starts beating heavily. So this increased heart rate is seen with the sympathetic neurotransmission. What happens to your airways, lungs? There is your airways get wide open, your airways gets open so that you breathe in more oxygen. That means your bronchial muscles are getting relaxed, right? So the bronchial smooth muscles are relaxed, but the other smooth muscles, blood vessels, are constricted. The main important point, right? And adrenal medulla, what happens in adrenal medulla is noradrenaline is taken up by the adrenal medulla and is converted to the adrenaline. Adrenaline again does the sympathetic neurotransmission. Now coming to the lower part of the body, what happens to the liver, or what does the liver do in the sympathetic neurotransmission is, whenever you're in a fight mode, what happens to the your energy? You need energy, right? So how do you get energy? Glucose. How is glucose produced? In the liver, mainly through gluconeogenesis or glycogenesis. What happens to the gastrointestinal tract? The motility and tone is increased, right? There is, decreased motility. Yeah, there is decreased motility. Mainly the constipation is seen in the sympathetic nervous system. And as I've said, the pepsin or the acid secretions are already inhibited. That's again clear here. Now coming to the urinary bladder, what happens to the urinary bladder? There is relaxation of the bladder wall. That is, mainly the smooth muscles in the urinary bladder gets relaxed. Mainly the openings get, the jugular muscle get opened, and thus leading to the relaxation of the bladder wall. And the other main mild actions are mainly on the sex organs and sweat glands. In the sweat glands, there is decreased sweat production in the sympathetic neurotransmission. So this is an overview of the functions of sympathetic neurotransmissions. So now we'll discuss with the next topic, that is how this sympathetic neurotransmission is transmitting through some chemical signals. So what are those chemical signals known as? Neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters mainly in the sympathetic nervous system are noradrenaline, adrenaline, dopamine, and isoproterenol, which is a synthetic one. And these are all of catechol moiety. So what is a catechol? If you see in the structure, all have the same benzene 2-hydroxyl group with a benzene ring, and only the side chain, the amine side chain, gets changed. So all these are known as, those having these rings are known as catecholamines, and most of the adrenergic neurotransmitters are catecholamines. Now we'll see in depth with the synthesis, storage, and degradation of the main neurotransmitter, that is noradrenaline. So all the proteins or all the transmitters within the body are produced or synthesized from the main amino acids. So here again, the synthesis of noradrenaline mainly by the main amino acid, that is levothyroxine. This levothyroxine get hydroxylase with the help of tyrosine hydroxylase enzyme and gets converted into L-dihydroxyphenylalanine DOPA. And this DOPA gets decarboxylase, converting to the other main neurotransmitter, that is dopamine. But dopamine is a central nervous system neurotransmitter, and peripherally it has very little minor actions. Then dopamine is again converted by beta hydroxylation to the noradrenaline. The wanted neurotransmitter is now synthesized by hydroxylation, decarboxylation, and beta hydroxylase. Among these three steps, the first step, that is through tyrosine hydroxylase, it is a rate limiting step. Right, if you want to inhibit the process, that is L-tyrosine can inhibit, L-hydroxylase can inhibit this process. Then how this noradrenaline, which is taken up by the adrenal medulla, is converted into adrenaline by the help of phenylethanolamine N-methyl transferase. With the methyl transfer group, noradrenaline is converted to adrenaline, and all these processes, that is noradrenaline, is synthesized in the axonal plasm. Whereas as I have said, noradrenaline is taken up by the adrenal medulla, it is in the chromaffin cells of the adrenal medulla, the adrenaline is synthesized, right? Now, the synthesized noradrenaline, if it doesn't go to the adrenal medulla, where does it get stored? So it is stored in the synaptic vesicles. As synaptic vesicles has the storage department, they get all the neurotransmitters are stored in synaptic vesicles, and as it has to be transmitted from the axonal plasm into the synaptic vesicles, we have many transporters which help in it, and these are mostly the active gradient transporters. And coming to the metabolism, it is stored, and the excess amount of neurotransmitter which is present either in the exoplasm, either in the synapse or in the liver cells has to be metabolized to be degraded from the body. So what are the main enzymes involved in the metabolism of noradrenaline? They are COMT and the MAVO. COMT is catechol O methyltransferase and MAVO is monoamine oxidase. And quickly going on with the metabolism, when based upon the concentration of the enzymes, they are and there is degradation of these noradrenaline by COMT is converted to normetanephrine, and finally by MAVO to the vinyl mandelic acid. And adrenaline, again by the same enzymes, are finally the metabolite is vinyl mandelic acid. So this is how it is. This vinyl mandelic is excreted through renal. And now, how is this release? As I've said, it has to be released from the storage granule for transmission. That is, now you are in a fight mode. The eye has to show pupil dilation. How this? What is the stimulus for this? Right? The brain has to send the signals. So that stimulus, how is it sent in the in the cellular level is what depicted here. It is mainly the main process is calcium mediated exocytosis is the main principle on the release of noradrenaline. What are the steps? First, there is depolarization, stimulation of phospholipase C enzyme. Then there is increased inositol triphosphate, which further increases the calcium levels, and further there is fusion and discharge of synaptic vesicles, thus releasing the noradrenaline into the synapse. Right? So this I'll be depicting here again in a diagram. Just go through it. Right? This is an axonal plasm where when a stimulus occurs, okay, when there is a signal sending from the central nervous system, then there is sodium channels get activated, thus causing depolarization. When there is activation of sodium channel, there is entry of sodium into the axonal plasm, causing depolarization of this cell. When there is depolarization, this sodium causes activation of the phospholipase C, and the phospholipase C in turn activates the inositol triphosphate, which further activates the main channel, that is calcium channel. This calcium channel on activation of calcium channel, there is calcium entry into the axonal plasm. What does this calcium do? This calcium enters the synaptic vesicles where our noradrenaline is stored, right? And then there is fusion and discharge of this at synaptic vesicles and releasing the noradrenaline. So this is about the release of noradrenaline. Now hope you have understood the whole sympathetic neurotransmission. Thank you. Please refer this Rangendale pharmacology for further reference.